Anjana चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं सागरजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजन सहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पदान् सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश। नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So welcome to the Tuesday and Thursday series on the Vaishnava Vrinda. We are doing the part 2 series, which is a contemporary study in the modern context. And especially we have been discussing few themes, and we are on the last theme of discussing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's deliverance of criticizers and his instructions on Vaishnava Ninda. The first two were more philosophical, with a lot of quotation and references, more of a philosophical study. The third part is more related to pastimes and lessons, what we can understand from these pastimes, especially the pastimes which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has done, and how we can understand and relate to these pastimes in today's context. So this is how we have been studying these Chaitanya Charitam and Chaitanya Bhagavat pastimes. So in the last few classes, we saw from the Chaitanya Bhagavat chapter 16, the glories of Haridas Thakur, many pastimes with respect to Haridas Thakur, with respect to envy, the Qazi's punishment of Haridas Thakur, how the Qazi became envious about the glories of Haridas Thakur and ordered punishment. Why did Haridas Thakur had to suffer? Because he had heard from the blasphemy of Vaishnavas. So what lessons he has for us? That is Haridas Thakur's reasoning of his punishment, and the pastime of living with the cave in the with a poisonous snake. the snake charmer's pastimes, and the Brahmana's offense out of envy, how the Brahmana offends Haridas Thakur. So we saw these pastimes in the last few classes. Today we will be studying some more pastimes from the Chaitanya Bhagavat, Madhya Leela, chapter 19, the Lord's pastimes in Advaita's house. Especially two pastimes we will be studying, that is Gaura Nityanand visits to a Vamachari sannyasi, and Advaita's explanation of Jnana Yoga, the Lord's beating Advaita and revealing of his glories after hearing his explanations, Advaita's happiness and declaration, examples of inauspicious results of worshipping demigods, and then the last portion, which is relevant with respect to Vaishnavinda, the Lord's warning to everyone about blasphemy of Vaishnavas. So this will be the climax, it is the end, but the whole background is here. So we will have to go through the background. Especially first, we will study this wonderful pastime of Lord Gaura Nityanand visit to a Vamachari sannyasi. Now the Chaitanya Bhagavat, chapter 19 extols the glories of Haridas Thakur. I'll just read the first invocation verse. Jaya Vishwambara Sarva Vaishnaviranata Bhakti Diya Jiva Prabhu Kare Atmasat. All glories to Vishwambar, the Lord of all Vaishnavas. Vishwambar. O Lord, please deliver the living entities by giving them devotional service. So the Lord actually came to deliver the entire Vishwa. That's why he's a Vishwambar. He's a deliverer. He's a maintainer of all living entities, and the living entities are maintained by being nourished with bhakti. And that's why Lord came to give that bhakti. So here in this few verses, Kavira Vrindavan Das Thakur mentions that how Lord Vishwambar from pastimes in Navdeep which were not seen, and he enjoyed the pastimes with the Gadadhar and Nityanand in the houses of his devotees, especially like Srivasa and Advaita. And the devotees were filled with ecstasy, and they also saw that entire world in relationship with Krishna. That is how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was performing his pastimes. They were absorbed in love of Godhead with no external consciousness, and they were completely engaged in the Sankirtan. And of all devotees, Acharya Gosai was most blissful. Acharya Gosai refers to Advaita Gosai. And Advaita is the Lord of Shantipur, is known by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and only to few devotees. So the glories of Advaita Acharya is also not known to everyone. Only few devotees know his glories. And while he was performing these pastimes, Vishwambar, whenever he used to regain his external consciousness, he would offer respect to all the Vaishnavas and particularly to Advaita. So this is very important. So here the Lord is teaching that Sakale Sammana Kurite Shapati. He used to offer respects to all the Vaishnavas, but particularly to Advaita Acharya. And because of this, as a result of this, Advaita Acharya was unhappy. His mind rumbled and his heart felt no relief. This thief constantly harasses me by giving his superior position and grabbing hold of my feet. So this is what Advaita Acharya is saying. This thief refers to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Vishwambar. He is constantly harassing me by giving me a superior position, by giving me more respect, and is grabbing my feet. The Lord is most powerful, so by force I cannot check him from taking dust from my feet. So that is what was happening to that Acharya. The only alternative I have is the power of devotional service, for no one can recognize Vishwambar without devotional service. So the Lord is only conquered by bhakti, and one can understand the Lord only by bhakti. So now Advaita Acharya says, I will smash his illusion into pieces, then only my name Advaita Simha will be glorified. So this is how he's contemplating. This thief has become proud after defeating Prabhu, but he doesn't know that I have hundreds of disciples like Prabhu. So we know that famous pastime, how Prabhu, the Lord's tolerance is exhibited, that when Prabhu kicked on Lord Vishnu's chest, still the Lord got down and he said that maybe, he massaged the feet of Bhrigu Muni, and then he said, maybe my heart is hard like iron, maybe your feet are not hurt. So the Bhrigu Chinna is still today there on the chest. Make the Lord so angry that he will punish me by his own hand. So although Bhrigu Muni hit the Lord by his feet on the chest, but still the Lord was humble and he did not exhibit any anger. But here, Advaita Acharya makes a resolve that I'll make the Lord angry, that he will punish me with his own hand. Although the Lord has incarnated to preach devotional service, I will not show any respect to such devotional service. This is my resolution. If I do not accept devotional service, then the Lord will forget himself out of anger and punish me by pulling my hair. After contemplating in this way, Advaita Prabhu happily departed with Haridas. So this is what the Advaita Acharya resolved. He came home on the pretext of some work and contemplated his resolution. He took a resolution and started contemplating. Intoxicated with ecstasy, he constantly swayed back and forth as he glorified Gyan while commenting on the book Yoga Vashishta. Yoga Vashishta is especially a book which is on Gyan, especially the impersonal conclusions. So it's a non-devotional Mayavadi book, especially those who are Gyanis and Yogis, they refer the Yoga Vashishta book. Without Gyan, what power devotional service to Vishnu have? Therefore, Gyan has all potency and it is the life of all. So this is what he started preaching. One who does not understand such Gyan is comparable to a person who leaves his wealth at home and searches for it in the forest. So this is the analogy he gives. Then he says, devotional service is like a mirror, while Gyan is like the eyes. What is the use of the mirror if one has no eyes? So that's why Gyan is more glorious than Bhakti. I have studied all the scriptures from beginning to end and come to the conclusion that Gyan is the essence of everything. Haridas knew well the characteristics of Advaita. Therefore, on hearing this explanation, he laughed loudly. So Haridas could understand the inner mood of Advaita Acharya. So he laughed when he heard these explanations. Such are the unfathomable characteristics of Advaita Prabhu. They are auspicious for the devotees and impediments for the miscreants. So when the miscreants hear that Gyan is superior to devotion, they will be impediments on their path of progress. Lord Vishwambar is like a desire tree that fulfills everyone's desires. Therefore, he understood Advaita's resolution. The Lord is there in the heart. So what Advaita desired, he understood. Advaita desired that the Lord beat him, so the Lord would enact that pastime. So the Lord, the absolute truth, Bhagwan, Vadanti Tattva Vidas, Tattvam Yadyanam Advayam, Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagwan iti Shabdyate. So this is the definition of the absolute truth. This is from the Tattva point of view. But there is a higher definition of the absolute truth. And what is that definition? Anyone would like to answer? What is the absolute truth? From the Tattva point of view, Vadanti, the scholars say, Brahman, Paramatma, Bhagwan. But what is the higher understanding of the absolute truth based on rasa? Yes, Maya Narsim Prabhuji?
Based on rasa, you are saying, Prabhuji?
Yeah. What is the higher definition of the absolute truth?
Brahmano hi pratishtaham amrutasya avyasya cha. Where is Krishna is telling he is the root of all the Brahman spirit and enjoyment. Is not the correct reference, Prabhu?
No, the absolute truth is Bhaktivatsal. The absolute truth is so much devoted to his devotees that he will break his own vow in order to keep the vow of his devotee. And that he did in the Kurukshetra war with Bhishma Pitama. He is eternally ready to be condemned by the moralist, but he will keep the vow of his devotee. So this was the resolution of Advaita Acharya that, he be beaten up. And the Lord understood this and he would like to fulfill the desire. He understood that there is a resolution. So this is the background, and this pastime will come later on. Now, before this pastime happens, there is a very interesting pastime which happens. And text 28 to 41 first give the description or the background behind his pastime. So one day the Lord was wandering in the city, looking at his creation with Nityananda. When he was looking at his creation, Apnar Sukriti Kariya Vidhi Mane Mora Shilpa Chahe Prabhu Sadaya Nayane. Brahma considered himself fortunate. The Lord is mercifully looking at my artistic work. So his own creation, the Lord was joyfully wandering in Navdeep and seeing his own creation and appreciating. So Brahmaji became very pleased. Just like a devotee does a painting of Krishna, and the spiritual master comes and sees the painting and very much appreciates. So we like it. So similarly, this whole material world is like art, creative art of Brahma. And the Lord was appreciating the creation. So Brahma was considering, oh, how fortunate I am. The Lord is mercifully looking at my artistic glance. So how the demigods were looking at this scene where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu are wandering on the banks of Navdeep, and how the demigods are seeing this. It's very beautifully narrated here by Vrindavan Das Thakur. It appeared that two moons were wandering about and everyone appreciated their presence according to their surrender. So based on their mentality, according to their mentality or according to their devotional propensity, everyone was appreciating them. All the demigods watched from outer space. On seeing the two moons, various thoughts went through their minds. So the demigods were there in the outer space, seeing how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, the two moons, Gaur Chandra and Nityananda Chandra, they were wandering in Navdeep, and various thoughts they were, the demigods were having in their minds. So their thoughts are revealed now. On seeing the presence of the moon-like lords, they considered their planets to be earth and earth to be heaven. So everything reversed. The heavenly planets became earth and the earth became heaven. By the influence of the moon-like lords, they considered themselves to be human beings and human beings to be demigods. So they themselves considered as human beings and human beings to be demigods. In fact, although the Swarga is glorified in the Karma Kanda portion of the Vedas, more glorious is earth, because only on earth one can practice bhakti, attain pure devotion and go back to Godhead. Devotion is not easily practiced in the heavenly planets because there one is reaping one's pious credits, is enjoying there. And even the demigods pray, in the fifth canto, these prayers are there, that they pray that let us take birth in humans' bodies on planet Earth so that we can attain the Lord. So that is why the whole thing is getting reversed. They themselves considered as human beings and human beings as demigods. On seeing the two moons, they thought, we have never seen two moons together in heaven. So they thought, how there are two moons in heaven? We have not seen it. So then one of the demigods said, listen to my words. One is original moon and other is reflection. So Swayam Roop is Lord Krishna and Swayam Prakash, his expansion is Baldev. Another demigod said, I think out of our good fortune, Lord Narayan has provided us with two moons. So this is one demigod who is thinking. So because of our good fortune, someone said, the father and son are one. I think one is Mercury and one is Mercury, the son of moon. So it is said that Atmavaye Jayate Putra, the man is born as his own son. So there is similarity between father and son. So Mercury is the son of moon and therefore is as good as father. So one demigod is thinking perhaps these two moons, one is the sun and of another. So like that. It is not at all wonderful that the demigods were bewildered by the Lord's form, which even the Vedas cannot ascertain. So they were also bewildered. Muyanti Yat Suraya, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur quotes. In this way, Nityanand and the son of Jagannath Mishra wandered about the city. So like that, as they were wandering in the city, the demigods were seeing in the Antariksh these two moons and various thoughts were going. And like that, they were wondering. And what happened? Addressing Nityananda, Vishwambara said, let us go to Advaita Acharya's house in Shantipur, because the Lord knew of the resolution of Advaita Acharya. So let us go there. So they set out to the path of Advaita Acharya's house. Now, before they went there, another interesting incident happened. And this is where, from text 42 till practically text 99, this pastime is there of the Gaur and Nityanand visit to the Vamachari sannyasi. This is a very interesting pastime and a lot of lessons are there here. Madhyapate Gangara Samipa Ek Gram Mullikera Kache Se Lalitpura Naam. Halfway down the road near Muluk is a village, Lalitpur, which is situated on Ganges. So this is on the eastern bank of Ganga, that is Ambika. And there is the village Lalitpur, situated near Shantipur. It is on the eastern side of Ganga, between Mayapur and Shantipur. So there, in this village, what happened? There lived a householder sannyasi. His house was on the side of the road near Ganges. Now, Sei Grame Grahas Sannyasi Ekache. Now, what is this Grahas Sannyasi? So, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur makes clear the phrase Grahastha, householder sannyasi or householder baula. Baula is, an upper sampradaya. They are themselves, they consider as tyagi, but they are extremely attached to home. And they do tamasic tantras. They are called as dhari sannyasis. They are immoralist. And they are attached to women, wine, So these are the they are extremely attached to home, but who dress themselves as sannyasis, wearing red cloth with support of Shakta philosophy or the Shaiva philosophy. And they claim maintaining maid servants and wives is approved in Shastras. So they have wives and servants, and they are attached to women and wine. So these are these, Vamachari sannyasi. Vamachari sannyasi. Vamachari means one who is not following the Vedic regulations. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions that at present, Shriman Ananda Charana Mitra, he wears a red cloth even though he's a householder. That is during Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time. And then he says, Shri Yukta Madhusudan Goswami of Vrindavan, he also wears red clothes as a preacher, even though he's a householder. So during Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, there were two examples like that. And then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur explains that the saffron dress is for an renunciate. And it is the rule for the sannyasis on the path of regulative principles according to Varnashram. And all Vaishnava acharyas also in the medieval age used saffron clothes. So the saffron was there in the Vaishnava Sampradaya. Now, this is it's not a detour, but it is very important to understand our Sampradaya teachings about the saffron. we feel that the saffron was introduced by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, but Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions in the course of preaching their own spontaneously manifested Paramahamsa Dharma, Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami inaugurated Anuragma, the path of attachment, were not inclined to Gaur Sundar's Ekadanda Sannyasi. Actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Ekadanda Sannyas. He accepted Ekadanda Sannyas from Keshav Bharati, but internally we know that Keshav Bharati was a pure devotee, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually first initiated Keshav Bharati and then he took the sannyas initiation. He accepted the Ekadanda Sannyas because that time it was most prominent during that time, and nobody would accept Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in order to preach. Externally, he accepted the Ekadanda Sannyas. But Rupa and Sanatana Goswami were to establish the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They did not want to accept this Ekadanda Sannyas first. Secondly, they were already in the Paramahamsa stage. Paramahamsa is Hamsa, Hamsa means white. So they were beyond the rules of Varnashram. They were on the transcendental platform. Thirdly, both Rupa and Sanatana Goswami had served under Nawab Hussain Shah, and they were ostracized, and they were not considered part of the Brahmana community. So from Varnashram point of view, they accepting sannyas would not be accepted by the common public during that time. And already they were on the sannyas platform. Not they were on the Paramahamsa platform, in fact. So sannyas was not necessary for them. So that is why, thinking themselves humble and meek, they accepted just loincloth, and they were completely mat in Radha Krishna pastimes. They were on the Paramahamsa platform. So they did not accept the Vaishnava sannyas, that is the saffron cloth. But Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions that Gopal Goswami's spiritual master, Tridandi Sannyasi Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur, although he was a Paramahamsa on the path of attachment, but he wore saffron dress befitting Acharya. So in our Sampradaya, we can see that Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur Vaishnava accepted the Vaishnava sannyas, and even in the Sri Sampradaya, it is Ramacharya also, when he took sannyas, he accepted the saffron. So saffron has been there in the Middle Ages, even in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. This is how Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is explaining. Secondly, after Rupa and Sanatana, the other Goswamis later on in the 16th, 17th century, they started imitating the 6 Goswamis of just wearing the loincloth, although they were not in the Paramahamsa stage. And later on, what happened is these deviations in the form of upper Sampradayas. And just by wearing the Paramahamsa platform, you cannot be on the Paramahamsa stage. So that is why there were these 2 ashrams during that time, the Grahatyagis and the Grahastas. There were the 2, and the Grahatyagis used to take the Babaji Vesh. But because this Babaji Vesh had become too degraded, and in the name of Babaji residing in Radhakund, they were involved in all sorts of nonsensical activities. So that is why Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur re-established the sannyas, saffron cloth, by he himself taking the sannyas, although he was a Paramahamsa in one sense. He humbled himself by coming within the Varnashram and accepting the sannyas order of life for preaching purpose, although he himself was a Paramahamsa. So this is a very important point on which Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is saying. Now they came to this Graha Sannyasi. The Lord asked Nityananda, do you know whose ashram this is and who stays here? Nityananda replied, oh Lord, this is the house of a sannyasi. The Lord said, we are fortunate, we can meet him. The 2 Prabhus smiled and they went to the sannyasi's house. Vishwambar therefore offered obeisances to the sannyasi. Now, although he was a Vamachari sannyasi, but still Vishwambar offered his obeisances. So Prabhupada in the Nectar of Instruction explains that if there are Prakrit Sahajias who are chanting Hare Krishna, we should offer obeisances in the mind, but we should not associate with them. So anyone who is even a Mayavadi sannyasi, he's a Vamachari sannyasi, he's an impersonalist, and he's more attached to having a wife and attached to wine and women, but still Vishwambar offered obeisances. This is very important. On seeing Vishwambar's most enchanting form, beautiful limbs, smiling face, the sannyasi in great satisfaction offered him various benedictions. May you achieve wealth, family, good wife, and learning. So this is the, sannyas ashirvad, which, this Vamachari sannyasi gave to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we all know that famous pastime of Prabhupada when he was traveling in a train with his disciples who were all in saffron robes. A family entered Prabhupada's cabin and please bless us. So materialistic people want to take blessings from sadhu so that they can have wealth, nice family, nice learning, and enjoy in this world. So Prabhupada told, my blessing will be that you will become like this. So immediately they left the place. So this sannyasi also, not knowing what is real blessing, he said, may you achieve wealth, family, good wife, and learning. Then Prabhu Bole. So now Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught through the sannyasi to us also. Prabhu Bole, Gosai, E nahi ashirvad, Hena bole tora hoy, Krishna Prasad. The Lord said, oh Gosai, this is not benediction. Rather, you should say, may you attain the mercy of Krishna. So this is the real blessing. Now, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur mentions the followers of the modern day, late Mr. Nandi. Now, I don't know who is this Mr. Nandi. This is maybe during Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's time. Who are extremely attached householder, worshipper of Gauranga, support this Dari Sannyasi's philosophy. The Dari Sannyasi's conception of blessing is to attain beautiful wife, wealth for exploiting the poor, materialistic education, and thirst to maintain one's prestige of one's hereditary caste to impress inferiors. The Dari Sannyasis have gradually embraced the philosophy of the caste Goswamis. Further, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says that the caste Goswamis and the Dari Sannyasis are anxious to acquire the title Gosai from the people of this world. So they like to be called as Goswamis. On the pretext of offering respect to the sannyasi, Mahaprabhu also addressed the sannyasi as Gosai. Actually, they can never become Goswamis. The mentality of Chaitanya Dev has already been revealed in such verses in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Adanta Gobir, Vishatam Tamishram, and Rupa Goswami's Vachavaikam. So only one who is Danta means one who has controlled his senses, or as Rupa Goswami stated in NI, he can only be a Goswami, but not others. Others cannot be Goswamis. So this is very clear in the Bhagavatam verses and in the NOI verses. Then, do you know whenever Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was offered obeisances, what is the benediction Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to offer to the devotees? Anyone knows the exact, words Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is to use? Can raise their hands. Praise. Krishna Matirastu. No, Krishna Matirastu, not Krishna. Krishna Matir Astu. Sorry, my mistake was Krishna Mati. Krishna means in Krishna. Mati means your consciousness. Astu, let your mind be absorbed in Krishna. So that is the prayer when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came back to consciousness in his house, Sarvam Bhatacharya immediately offered obeisance to the sannyasi. Om Namo Narayana. Mahaprabhu said, Krishna Matir Astu. So, Vishnu Bhakti Ashirvad Akshay Avaya Ye Bolila Gosai Tumara Yogya Nai. The benediction of devotional service to Vishnu is inexhaustible, Akshaya, and indestructible, Avaya. Whatever you have said, O Gosai, does not befit you. So this is how he is teaching through this Vamicharya Banyasi to us also. The sannyasi smiled and said, I am now directly experiencing what I have previously heard about. So the sannyasi is in a bewildered state. If good advice is given, people will chase you with a stick. The behavior of the son of a Brahmana is just like that. So the Dari sannyasi responded with outrage and anger. And I have direct advice, the son of Brahmana, I've given him a good benediction, but now, he's saying something opposite, perverted truth. He's saying, I happily awarded him the benediction of wealth, and what to speak of appreciating it? He found fault with me. The sannyasi said, listen, O son of Brahmana, why do you criticize my benediction? If one has taken birth in this world, does not engage in sense gratification, does not enjoy beautiful women, does not accumulate wealth, then what is the use of his life? And you are embarrassed to accept the benediction of such wealth? So this is, everyone, Dhanam Dehi, Sundaram Dehi, all these, people who go to the demigods, this is what they worship. But Mahaprabhu in the Shikshashram has made it very clear. Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadish kamare, mama janmani janmanishware, avatar bhakti rahe ahetuki. So not knowing this, what is the use if you have taken birth and you have not engaged in sense gratification? Tell me, even if you have devotion to Vishnu, what will you eat if you do not have wealth? So this is the logic he's using. On hearing the words of the sannyasi, the Lord smiled and raised his hand on his forehead. So he did like this. Like this he did. Hi, sometimes, this is the sign when these emotions which come in the heart, they are expressed to the movement of the hands, the external manifestation of the emotion. Hi, So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu expressed this. By this action, Mahaprabhu taught everyone not to aspire for anything other than devotional service. So this is the lesson Mahaprabhu is showing through this expression. Then, Shuno Shanai Gosa ye kahibe, Nija karme e ache se apana milibe. Mahaprabhu further tells, listen, O sannyasi, we will all certainly eat whatever is destined by our karma. Food will certainly come automatically, just as newborn baby automatically gets its mother milk as food without endeavor. So this is the logic of Mahaprabhu and explanation of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. If wealth and family are the aim of life, then tell me, why they are taken away at the time of death? No one wants fever. Why then does fever appear and afflicts one body? Listen, Gosai, the cause of this is karma. What great personality knows this in truth? Some people claim that the Vedas indicate the heavenly planets are the goal of life, but such teachings are simply the compassion of the Vedas to the foolish. So it is those who are foolish, they think that the Vedas ultimately proclaim going to heaven and enjoying is the highest thing. People take pleasure in material happiness, and the Vedas offer directions according to their mentality. What is the fault of the Vedas? The Vedas declare by taking bath in Ganges and chanting the name of Hari, one will achieve wealth and children. These are the secondary benefits for those who don't know the value of devotion. So that is why the Vedas give these kind of benedictions. And people therefore engage in such activities. If one some or other takes bath in the Ganges and chants the name of Hari, then by the influence of those activities, one will easily achieve devotional service. So indirectly, the Vedas, by promoting sense gratification, because that is what people want, they indirectly, engage people in devotional acts by which they can achieve devotion and ultimately attain perfection. Foolish people do not understand this intention of the Vedas. So they will give up devotional service to Krishna and engage in sense gratification. Oh Gosai, try to understand what is good and what is bad. There is no benediction other than devotional service to Krishna. While instructing the sannyasi, the Supreme Lord and spiritual master of everyone taught devotional service through Vedic evidence. When Lord Chaitanya speaks, whatever Lord Chaitanya speaks is the absolute truth. Sinful living entities who blaspheme others do not accept his words. So here is a very important point. Pare para ninde papi jeev taha nahi lai. Not understanding Sri Chaitanya Chandra's statement, which are complete absolute truths, sinful people who blaspheme others perpetually remain simple-minded, do not respect devotional service. So here is a very important point. If we engage in blasphemy to other people, we commit sin. If we engage blasphemy of Vaishnavas, then we commit aparadh. And our respect for devotional service comes down. So here is a very important point. How we value devotional service, how much we, consider it as a jewel. When some service is given, we take it as our life and soul, or we don't respect it. And to the degree we don't respect devotional service, to that degree, we can understand that our heart is filled with offenses. On hearing the words, the sannyasi smiled and thought, I can understand this Brahmana has become crazy because of misguidance. See his situation. It appears that this sannyasi has spoiled this Brahmana's boy's mind and is taking him away somewhere. So this sannyasi refers to Nityanand Prabhu. So this is how his perverted intelligence was working, polluted intelligence. So after hearing Mahaprabhu establish the supremacy and great necessity of devotional service, the Dari sannyasi, being unable to approve it, considered Mahaprabhu a crazy boy. And on seeing Nityanand Prabhu dressed as a sannyasi with Mahaprabhu, the Dari sannyasi thought that Nityanand Prabhu has certainly deceived his Brahmana boy by polluting his intelligence. The sannyasi said, the time has come when I appear ignorant before a child. I have traveled throughout the world to Ayodhya, Mathura, Haridwar, and Badrika. I have been in all the holy places like Gujarat, Kashi, Gaya, Vijayanagar, and Sri Lanka. Yet I could not understand what is good and what is bad. Now this child who is still drinking his mother's milk is teaching me. Nityanand smiled and said, listen, Gosai, there is no need to argue with a child. So Nityanand, nicely smiled and told, he also addressing him as Gosai, don't argue with this child. I know well your glories. For my sake, forgive all his offenses. So here you can see Nityanand Prabhu stopped this Vamid Sanyachari from further arguing with Mahaprabhu and further committing any offense. So like that, how Nityananda Prabhu carefully, tactfully handled him. When the sannyasi heard glorification of himself, he became pleased and immediately invited them for lunch. Nityanand said, we have to leave immediately for some work because they were on the way to Advait Gosai's house. You may give us something that we can eat on the way after taking bath. The sannyasi said, take bath here, eat something, feel refreshed, and then go. The two Prabhus incarnated to deliver the sinful living entities, so they agreed to remain in the sannyasi's house. After getting relief from their journey and by taking bath in the Ganges, the two Prabhus came and sat down to eat some fruit. First, they offered items like milk, mangoes, and jackfruit to Lord Krishna, and then they sat down to eat before the sannyasi. The sinful sannyasi drank wine. Making some signs to Nityananda, he spoke as follows. Now, in front of the sannyasi, in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, this sinful sannyasi was drinking wine. Vamapati sannyasi madira pan kare, Nityananda prati taha kehe tare tore. Vamapati is, Dari sannyasi. Vamapati all refers to Vamichari, or one who acts contrary to Vedic principles. And Vamichari definition is, principal duties to drink wine, eat fish, enjoy sex, associate with women, worship other women. So these are the things which are mentioned in some of the Tantra Shastras. So, he was making some signs to Nityananda Prabhu. Shuno, Shripad, kichu ananda anibe. Toma hena atiti va kota paibe. So what is saying? Listen, Shripad, Shuno, Shripad. Shall I bring you some anand? Kichu anand anibo. Where else I can find guests like you? Toma hena atite va kota paibo. So this is what he's saying. Since Nityananda had visited various places, he could understand that this person was a drunkard sannyasi, because Nityananda used to go to the liquor bars to preach. So he could understand this is now a drunkard sannyasi. Ananda anibe, Nyas bole bar bar, Nityananda bole tabe lad se amar. The sannyasi repeatedly asked, shall I bring you some anand? Nityananda replied, we should go now. When Sriman Nityananda saw the Dari Sannyasis' eagerness to make them drink wine, he told them they had to leave. On seeing the cupid-like beauty of the two lords, the sannyasi's wife watched them with full concentration. The sannyasi's wife was there also, so she was watching them. What she said? She told her husband, why are you disturbing their meal? So the sannyasi's wife forbade her husband from entering into conflict, because he was repeatedly asking, so don't disturb the sannyasis, when they are taking. At least the wife forbade. Prabhu bole, ki anand boliye sannyasi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very innocent. The Lord asked, what is this anand the sannyasi is talking about? Nityananda replied, Nityananda bole, madira henavasi. I think he is talking about wine. Vishwambar remembered Lord Vishnu, washed his hand, and immediately left. Dui Prabhu Chanchala Gangaye Jampa Diachila Acharya Grehe Ganga Vashila. After jumping into the Ganges, the two restless lords went to the house of Advaita Acharya by floating in the waters of Ganges. So immediately when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understood, he's speaking about wine, immediately he washed his hands and both of them jumped to the Ganges, Vishnu, and then floating in the Ganges, they reached to Advaita Acharya. Now, here is a very important instruction. Strainya madhyapere Prabhu anugraha kare Nindaka Vedanti yadi tatapi samhare. The Lord bestowed mercy on womanizers and drunkards, but he annihilates blasphemers even if they are well versed in Vedanta. So here is a very important lesson, that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda went to this house of a Vamichari sannyasi. Although he was a womanizer because he had wife and maid servants, he was a drunkard, but still the two independent lords went to his house, accepted fruits in that house, and bestowed mercy to them. What a mercy. But Nindake, those who are blasphemers, even if they are Vedantists, tatapi samhare, he annihilates. So that is a very, very important point here. Ordinary people are intoxicated to material enjoyment and who follow worldly morality. give more respect to impersonalists than to drunkards and womanizers. Yes. So this is from mundane moral sense. You can see that people, from worldly morality, people will give respect to impersonalists rather than to drunkards and womanizers. But see the Lord, but the supremely independent Lord, who is most merciful to the living entities, does not approve of the art consideration which is born of external perception. Realizing that the conception of the Vedantist who are averse to Vaishnava is completely opposed to devotional service, he refuses it. And he displays compassion on the weak, the womanizers, and the drunkards according to their respective qualification. So, Srila Prabhupada went to the Western countries, especially the hippies, who were all, drunkards, drug addicts, and addicted to women. But Prabhupada showed mercy and compassion, and they all became, wonderful Vaishnavas. Similarly, Mahaprabhu exhibited the same compassion. Now, further lesson. Nyasi hoya madhyapiye stri sangha achare tatapi thakur gela tahara mandire. Although this sannyasi drank wine, Nyasi hoya madhyapiya, intimately associated with women, stri sangha achare, the Lord visited his house. So here is a very important purport. People who enjoy others' wives and drink wine are not accepted as pious in this world. Yes, no one goes to the house of a sinful person to associate with him. Sri Gaur Nityanand bestowed mercy to even this Dhari Sannyasi to reveal that in comparison to various kinds of association of Mayavadis is more abominable and undesirable than the association of drunkards. What an amazing insight in the Mahaprabhu's pastimes. But they revealed that association of Mayavadi Vedantist of Kashi is even more undesirable. The licentious drunkards are only sinful, but the Mayavadis are envious of the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Therefore, they are eternally offenders. That's why Mayavadis, we should be very, very careful. They are offenders. Mayavadi, Krishna Paradi. Sins are exhaustible, but imperishable sins like spiritual suicide resulting from offense does not allow one to give a false identification. As the result of offenses, the eternal good fortune and supreme auspiciousness of the living entities is destroyed forever. Vaishnava aparadha is so dangerous. When piety is accumulated, sinful reactions are destroyed. But the result of offensive is more inauspicious than sin in all respects. So we had seen in the first part when we discussed Bhaktivinoda Thakur's analysis on difference between Pap and Aparadh. Pap is Dhuli Lep, Aparadh is Vajra Lep. So that is a very important lesson here. In the course of their conversation, the Lord taught him religious principles. He took rest in his house and ate there. What a mercy Mahaprabhu bestowed. So just while conversing, he explained the glory of pure devotional and no material benedictions. So he gave him shiksha. He took rest in his house and he also ate there. That's how he bestowed mercy. Even if the sannyasi could not attain perfection in this life, he would attain in the next. But the blasphemers will never achieve perfection. Hai hoy a janma bal hoy ar janma. Not in this life, but the next life he'll attain perfection. Sabe nindakare nahi vashe bala marma. But the blasphemers will never achieve perfection. Now, where in the Srimad Bhagavatam do you know any pastime where the blasphemers did not achieve perfection in the first life and not also in the next life? Any pastime anyone knows can raise their hands in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Where is this pastime? of one who blasphemed Vaishnava and did not achieve auspiciousness in this life also and not in the next life also. Anyone else would like to answer? Let me try if they are there. Niranjan Prabhuji, any idea which pastime? Oh, your voice is breaking.
Ashwathama Prabhu.
Ashwathama. The Bhagavad. Okay, any other pastime you know? Okay, Maya Narasimha Prabhuji. Yes,
Krishna Prabhu, is it Daksha Prabhuji?
yes, it is Daksha. Daksha offended, blasphemed Shiva, and next life also he blasphemed Narada Muni also. So, Nindakas will never attain perfection. Daksha. Now, Viki na paye yat abhakta sannyasi tara shakshi yateke sannyasi ka shivashi. That is why non-devotee sannyasis cannot see the Lord. The sannyasis of Kashi are evidence of this. So, a non-devotee sannyasi, that is a Vedantist, they could not see the Lord, but a Vamichari sannyasi who was attached to women, wine, he could have the darshan of the Lord. So, what a lesson it is. And in the Antakand, when the Lord went to Kashi, all the sannyasis there heard about his arrival. So, in the Antakand, this pastime is there. Those sannyasis became happy to hear about the arrival of that great personality, thought, we will see Chaitanya. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Kashi, they all came to know, oh, this sannyasi named Chaitanya has come. He's our Sampradaya sannyasi. So we will see him. They were all conversant with Vedanta and practiced austerities. They had lived their entire lives in Kashi and were greatly renowned. So this was their qualification of these, sannyasis. Yet all their good qualities were nullified by one fault. They taught Vedanta, but did not explain devotional service to Vishnu. So this was their fault. The lion like Gaur, Antaryami Gaurasimha, the super soul of all, knows everything. Although he went to Kashi, he did not give darshan to those sannyasis. Why? In Varanasi, he hid in Ram Chandra Puri's ashram, where he stayed for 2 months. So when he was staying in Kashi, Varanasi, he hid in Ramchandra Puri's ashram. So here is a very important point Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is mentioning. Shri Gaurachandra stayed at Chandrasekhar Acharya's house in Varanasi. By profession, the Shudra Chandrasekhar was a doctor. Thakur Vrindavan, the author of Chaitanya Bhagavat, understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu secretly stayed at the ashram of Ramchandra Puri. Ramchandra Puri was a pseudo disciple of Madhendra Puri. He had strong inclination for Mayavad philosophy. The Lord openly declared that he stayed in the ashram of Ramchandra Puri, whereas he actually stayed elsewhere in the association of Krishna's devotees. Ramchandra Puri was a sectarian sannyasi. Therefore, the general public could not criticize the Lord as a sannyasi for staying at his ashram. So the Lord externally exhibited that he was staying in the ashram of Ramchandra Puri, but he was actually staying in Chandrasekhar Acharya's house. So this is how they would not criticize Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because if he stayed in, he's a Vedantist, he's a sannyasi, why is he staying in a house of this Chandrasekhar Acharya? So they would again criticize. So externally, the Lord, showed that he was staying in Ramchandra Puri's house, but actually he was staying in Chandrasekhar Acharya's house. 2 days before the observance of Vishwarupa Kaushra, the Lord departed secretly so that he would not be seen by others. So what is this Vishwarupa Kaushra? It is mentioned that these Ekadand sannyasis, they shave their heads on the full moon day on every second month during the Chaturmas. So during the Chaturmas, the Ekadand sannyasis don't shave And only one day they are allowed to shave, that is the full moon day on the second month. And then what they do is, after doing this, shaving the head, then they observe some vows, and they also, recite the Vishwarupa Yoga. That is they worship the spiritual master and recite the Vishwarupa Yoga. That is the 11th chapter of the Gita. So by shaving on that day, on the Vishwarupa Kausha, that is the full moon day, they don't break the vow of Chaturmas. So, but what Mahaprabhu did 2 days before this, Mahaprabhu secretly left that place and he did not give them darshan. Mahaprabhu secretly left, and on the day of Vishwarupa Kausha, they merged in the ocean of disappointment. Oh, he did not give us darshan. Later, the sannyasis heard that Lord Chaitanya had left, so they were not able to see him. After that, intelligence was torn away simply by their indulgence in the sin of blasphemy. Yet, even after his departure, they could not feel remorse. So one is, when we do blasphemy, our intelligence is stolen. Secondly, after doing blasphemy, if we don't remorse and rectify, that is still worst. So they did not also feel remorse. So what they were saying, they said, we all have a common lineage. So why did he leave without speaking to us? Why did he forsake his religious duties by leaving 2 days before Vishwarupa Kausha? This is what is their reasoning. If one is devoid of devotional service, this type of mentality develops. Lord Shiva never accepts the worship of a blasphemer. So Lord Shiva doesn't accept it. Kashite e paraninda si sei shivera danda Shiva paradi Vishnu nahi tara vandya. Those who blaspheme others in Kashi are punished by Shiva. Kashite e parininde say shivera danda. And those who offend Shiva cannot become devotees of Vishnu. So this is a very important point here. Mahadev, the Prophet of Kashi, punishes the residents of Kashi who blaspheme the Supreme Lord. The topmost Vaishnava Mahadev punishes such condemned living entities for their offenses against Vaishnavas and makes them bereft of devotion to Vishnu. Lord Gaurasundar will deliver everyone except the sinful people who blaspheme Vaishnavas. Extremely important lesson here. Sabara karibe Gaurasundar Udhar. Vetirikta Vaishnava Nindak Durachar. Lord Gaurasundar will deliver everyone except the sinful people who blaspheme Vaishnavas. So here the purport is very interesting. Sri Gaurasundar's preaching of devotional service is meant to deliver everyone in the world. But Mahaprabhu did not display any compassion for delivering the sinful Mayavadis who indulge in blaspheming the Vaishnavas. Rather, he enacted the pastime of accepting the hospitality of a drunken debauchee. Yet he did not award the Madhyavadi Vedantists who were envious of the Vaishnavas the good fortune of attaining his darshan. Madhyapere ghare kailasnan sei bojana nindaka Vedanti na paila darshana. He took bath and ate at the house of a drunkard, but the blasphemous Vedantist could not get his darshan. My goodness. Amazing lessons to be learned here. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu punished the Mayavadi Vedantists by adopting the principle of non-cooperation with them. Those who are not afraid of such severe punishment are sufficiently punished every life by Yamaraj. So those Mahaprabhu actually punished by not giving darshan. So if you are not fearful of Mahaprabhu's punishment, anyway you will be punished by Yamaraj. So this is important. If one does not have intense attachment to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya, then useless inclination towards impersonalism is completely futile. Activities like studying Mayavad Vedanta becoming devoid of devotion to Vishnu, and renouncing material enjoyment are all useless and futile for people who are bereft of Sri Mahaprabhu's service. The acceptance of sannyas, the study of Vedanta of one who has no attachment to the glorification of Sri Gausundar, who is constantly praised by Brahma, Shiva, Anant, and Kamala, and the mother of all, is useless. In this way, the two lords blissfully floated in the waves of Ganga. Vishwambar roared loudly and repeatedly claimed, I am he, I am he. Nada disturbed my sleep and brought me here, and now he's covering the glories of devotional service by preaching. Yeah. So here, now they are going to reach, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to reach Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya's house, and there is another wonderful pastime which is going to happen. So here we can see Mahaprabhu's wonderful activities of blessing a Vamachari sannyasi who was a drunkard, who was a womanizer, and how he punished the impersonalist Vedantists by not giving also darshan. So from mundane sense, moralist sense, it's unfathomable, but you should see from a transcendental moral sense. That is why transcendental morality is completely, for those who have higher vision, external perception, they cannot fathom these activities, and we should also learn from these lessons. I heard from a very senior devotee, who was a very advanced devotee, this story, which is a true incident which happened in one of the European temples. I think somewhere it is in Germany. That Srila Prabhupada had installed in one of the, during Prabhupada's time in the Western countries, especially the churches which are all empty, Prabhupada was, buying them and converting them into temples and using for his Sankirtan movement to spread. So one of, I don't know, it was Europe or Germany, exactly which place. So one such place, Srila Prabhupada had installed Gaur-Nitai deities. And later on, after many years, the temple had shifted from this, beautiful old traditional stone structure church-like temple, which was converted into Hare Krishna temple. The temple had shifted to some other places, two, three other different places. And already 20, 30 years had happened when the deity installation had happened there. Prabhupada himself had done the deity installation there. And two devotees were distributing Back to Godhead magazine. They were in this locality, they were distributing the Back to Godhead magazine. And suddenly they came across this old building. And they knew that before it was a Hare Krishna temple. So they became a little curious and they said, let us go and see what is there. Let us go inside. So they knocked the door and there were huge doors and two hefty people. Yes, what do you want? And they humbly said, oh, this was an old Hare Krishna temple. We just want to come and have a look. We want to see. They said, okay, come in. So they came in and they saw there were some old remnants of the pictures, the decorations of the altar. Of course, there were no deities there. And all around, it was a mess. These two hefty personalities who were actually residing there, everywhere they saw these liquor bottles lying here and there. And somehow they had kept their Back to Godhead magazines, upside down. And on the backside, the pictures of Gaur-Nitai dancing were there. When these two drunkards, already they were drunk also during that time, they were smelling. When these two drunkards saw, they said, ghost, ghost, ghost. They started shouting. And these two devotees were wondering, what happened? Who are they? Who are they? They are ghosts. They are ghosts. These drunkards are saying. They said, they are Gaur-Nitai. They are not ghosts. They are not ghosts. They are Gaur-Nitai. No, every day night, They come, they dance here, and they say, "This is our place. This is our place." They fight with us. And these devotees started wondering, my goodness, Gaur Nitai are giving darshan to them. They immediately fell at their feet to take their blessings. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? So, because Srila Prabhupada had installed the Gaur Nitai deities, it was their place, and Gaur Nitai were there present. Although the deities had shifted, the temple had shifted to some other place, and Gaur Nitai were giving darshan to these drunkards. What a mercy and what a compassion. Parama Karuna Pahudui Jana Nitai Gaurachandra Saba Avatar Tara Shiromani Kevala Anandakanda. So this is the in comparison and boundless compassion of these two lords, Gaur and Nityanand, who are ready to give mercy to the drunkards, to the womanizers, but not to the nindaks. So if we can avoid Vaishnava offense and practice devotional service, no matter how fallen we are, we will be delivered. Srila Prabhupada said that China will be the last country. Prabhupada, in fact, went to Russia, but he could not go to China. He sent Tamal Krishna Maharaj to preach in China. We know that. Prabhupada said China would be the last country to take up Krishna consciousness, and they will be the first to go back to Godhead. Because they throughout their life have committed so much sin. When they get this rare gem of devotional service, they value it, and they always, in their heart are lamenting, oh, how sinful we are and how rare is this precious gem of Harinam. And they value devotional service. And that's why they will never commit offenses to Vaishnavas, and they will attain pure devotion and go back to Godhead. Once one of the sannyasis was telling me that when he had gone to one of the Chinese cities for preaching, so Gaur Nitai Aarti was going on, and after the Aarti, the devotees in Chinese language, they were started fighting. Sannyasi could not understand why they fighting, because Gaur Nitai was offered in the plate noodles, and the noodle sticks were there. So the devotees, the Chinese devotees, were fighting for the Mahaprasad noodle stick. And the sannyasi was wondering, why fight for a noodle stick, But then he found out from the translator that these Chinese devotees, they take the noodle stick because Gaur Nitai had their meal in this noodle stick. So they will keep in the altar the noodle stick and worship the noodle stick. So that's how they value pure devotional service. So the most sinful, when they get this rare gem, they can appreciate it. Whereas especially in India, which is still a pious country, devotional service is natural, devotion is known here. We might not take it so seriously. So that's why Srila Prabhupada said that Chinese will be the last to accept Krishna consciousness, and they will be the first to go back to Godhead. So this pastime is very, very interesting of the Vamachari sannyasi who got the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, whereas the Mayavadis, the Nindaks, Mahaprabhu did not give his darshan. So there is another important pastime in this chapter, which we will take on Thursday. There are still more important lessons in that pastime, which we will discuss on Thursday. Any questions, any clarification anyone has? You can raise your hands. Okay then, so we'll stop here. So Thursday we'll take the remaining next pastime, the pastime of chastising Advaita Acharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the glories of pure devotion are extolled by Advaita Acharya, and about Vaishnava Aparadh, Ninda also is being discussed there. So we'll take it up in Thursday's class. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Das Thakur ki Jai. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki Jai. Hare Krishna.